Bobby Broyles and Tim McDonald here.
Should be a really interesting matchup. Buckle up. If you're not watching, you got some problems.
12 Teams in 12 Days presented by Geico continues. I'm Bobby Broyles alongside Tim McDonald. The Delaware Blue Hens grabbed today's spotlight, and it was a difficult season in 2015 for the Hens. But at times we saw this team be able to not just compete, but win versus the top programs in CAA football.
Yeah, it was a tale of two teams at times. You know, one team during this series where I'm comfortable, I think you're comfortable saying that it's okay to say that the expectations are high in Newark. I mean, it always is every single year. But again, last year's team, 4-7 record. You beat William & Mary at home. You beat New Hampshire at home. Then you have rare home losses. You lose to Jacksonville. You lose to UAlbany at home. Also lost at Rhodey, lost at Towson. Just a strange year for Delaware because you think of Delaware, and we've talked about the power of Delaware in the past and things like that. And at times we saw that Delaware team. We saw them be able to run down anyone's throat. We saw them be able to win games and have a great defense. But again, I think at other times, a team that didn't really know its identity. Heading into this year, I think it's clear Coach Brock and the Blue Hens, everyone knows they need to improve their passing game. One of the lowest passing games in the FCS, not just in CAA football. Joe Walker was a redshirt freshman last year, started a lot of games for the Hens, kind of was thrust into that role and said, hey, okay, you're the starter, deal with it. And one of the top things that Delaware has, if it has anything coming back, it's a really good defense and an even better rushing attack. And you look at last year, Wes Hills and Jalen Randolph, two really good running backs, both got injured at the early part of the year. Okay, who's going to take over? Well, in comes Thomas Jefferson, ends up being CAA Rookie of the Year, 890 yards, 7 touchdowns. And his counterpart, Kareem Williams, who the coaches told they were going to redshirt, gets thrust into that role as well. What does he do? Rush for 795 yards and 3 touchdowns. More importantly, both had over 150-plus carries. So for two guys who really weren't expecting to do much, they came in and got the job done. You look at this running back field now, 4 running backs, any coach in the FCS would take one of those guys. Delaware has all 4. How do you handle that as a head coach? That's another thing that I think is going to change for Delaware offensively, getting the ball in those hands as much as possible. And again, we talked about the passing game. Joe Walker, 9th in scoring, 14.9 points for Delaware per game. Passing offense was 12th, only 67.1. Rarity, Bob, this stat I had to double check, but only twice last year did Delaware throw over 100 yards in a game. We know Coach Brock told us they're expecting to change. He's had a hands-on experience with the quarterbacks. It's going to come down to the quarterback play. Like every team in this 12 teams in 12 day series, can the passing offense counter with the dangerous running attack that Delaware should have?
Absolutely. Delaware head coach Dave Brock spoke about the quarterback competition to our crew at Media Day.
Well, I see going into training camp, we'll have a competition like we always do. Every position is going to be competitive. Blake Rankin, Joe Walker, Pat Kehoe, all those guys will compete and have an opportunity to see who ultimately is going to be the best leader for our football team. Joe certainly gained some valuable snaps and did some great things in some wins. We didn't play as well as we would like to play in some games that we didn't win. And we need to find consistency and production in the passing game. Worked harder on that this spring and really felt like we made some great strides. We've had a great summer, and now we have to take the summer work that we've done and go into the preseason camp and make sure that we're an efficient passing team and kind of marry that to the run game, which was a top 20 run game in the country.
Tim, I think we both can agree on the other side of the ball, Delaware could have one of the best defenses in the conference. Last year's unit finished 3rd in both scoring and rushing defense and welcomed back 8 total starters, including preseason All-CAA football performer Charles Bell.
No doubt that Delaware's defense last year, I think one of the things that made them one of the best units in CAA football was the fact that there, not to take anything away from their players, but there was a bunch of no-name guys. There was a bunch of guys who were young we didn't really know about. And all of a sudden, as the season keeps progressing, you're seeing, wow, it's pretty hard for teams to find strength against Delaware. Against the run, Delaware was incredibly good, 17th in the FCS in total rush defense, 123 yards per game. Expect that to continue. So many starters, Black. In fact, 18 players who played at least 200-plus snaps. A huge factor. I mean, outside of the 8 starters, I think Coach Brock mentioned, he's still building too. Let's not forget, this is his 4th year, but there's so many guys who they've redshirted. There's so many guys who they're still excited about to see. Look at the other linebackers coming back. Besides Charles Bell, who, by the way, an All-CAA second-team performer last year, we didn't really know who the guy was. All of a sudden, he's a junior. You look at Anthony Jackson, he's back. Jalen Kindle. I mean, this team defensively, I think that's going to be the rock. It's very, very hard as a defense, not to get into schematics here, but when your offense is only scoring 15 points a game, it's hard as a defense to say, all right, go out there and do the same thing every week. It's very hard as a defense to have that mentality. Should have one of the best defensive secondaries in CAA football. Nasir Adderley and Ray Jones, were both true freshmen who started last year. I expect them to contend for all CAA honors again. Some of the best corners in CAA football. Justin Watson, who's a third-team all-CAA guy, he's back in the strong safety position as well. Again, I think it's that offense. How does the offense and the slow-moving rush attack offense move over and affect that defense? If they only score 15 points a game, it's going to be hard. The defense, though, could be the heart and soul of Delaware in 2016.
Here's Coach Brock on his expectations for the defense in 2016.
Well, kind of the thought process that we have defensively is we want to go from good to great. We really return everybody but our captain, David Tinsley. Plus, we're going to add 4 or 5 redshirt players. We've added Troy Reeder, a transfer linebacker from Penn State. Malcolm Brown redshirted last year. He's back. He started for us at corner as a true freshman. So we feel like we've added some really quality pieces to a very, very good defense. And we really, we're looking to have a great year defensively and continue to grow the program. And again, good to great is our motto.
We will soon find out if that defense can make the next step from good to great, like Coach Brock said. Delaware opens the year at home versus Delaware State, but then doesn't return to Newark until October the 8th. Besides that, what else stands out to you, Tim?
Well, I mean, that is a very rare thing to see, especially not as a football schedule, but in Delaware's schedule. Home games are so important to the fans in Newark. And Delaware in general. They play so well there at times. You saw last year, William and Mary, New Hampshire, that's when they beat those teams at home. Strong starts, I think, is going to be a critical thing for this team. I mean, you look at Coach Brock, they haven't won the opener since his first year in 2014. The last couple of years, it has been slow. Again, Pitt 2 years ago, that you expect to come out slow versus that. But last year versus Jacksonville, not the way the team wanted to start. I think for me, looking at the schedule, it's the stretch after the bye week. So after that bye week, you mentioned the rarity of home games. At JMU, which is obviously a huge game, the conference opener for Delaware. Home versus Maine at William and Mary. Then you get Stony Brook and Towson at home. Those are the powerhouses in CAA football, the key stretch right there. If you can take care of the early portion of the schedule, like we said, they play at Lafayette, an FBS opponent in there as well in Wake Forest. If you can play well, get a couple of wins, and not get too injured, I think you come into conference play with that much more strength. For me, it's a question of identity for this Delaware team. Moving into 2016, you just look up and down the board. So many guys returned, so much youth. So many guys who not only played, but played impactful snaps. Does this team want to be a good defensive team with an offensive identity of, we're pretty good at running the ball when we want to? It's a team that needs to put it all together all the time. And if they do that, the players, Coach Brock, the players we saw at Media Day, they're not scared to say, we know how good we can be moving into 2016. And I think I like that in hearing from players and coaches. If they can put it all together and find their identity on both sides of the ball, then Delaware could be a team that we're going to be talking about a lot.
Absolutely. And important to note, the Battle of the Blue has moved back to the end of the season.
Yes, no Pope this year.
No Pope this year. The Blue Hens begin their 2016 season on opening night, Thursday, September the 1st at 7 o'clock at home versus Delaware State.
It's my reminder here in the 12 Teams in 12 Days series, but I remind fans right now you can head over to CAAfootball.com for another unique one-on-one content. We have some all CAA football preseason members in Charles Bell and offensive lineman Connor Bozick. You can watch those features now.
Tomorrow we're back breaking down Elon, a team that had a 3-win turnaround under Coach Rich Skrosky in 2015. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.